You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pincus and Andre Proulx.
It's the end of September, and my Bordeaux futures haven't come in yet. Michael, how are you?
I'm sorry that you're worried about this. Are they 2022s?
Yeah, they are.
Well, that probably means they're just being held a little bit longer. Because what a great vintage 2022 is. I cannot tell you that... if I were in Bordeaux, I'd be holding them back as long as I can too, because it's probably going to be, the not the next great vintage because the vintage is done, but it's that vintage, right? Like it's that vintage. Like it's the vintage that made me spend €55 on a bottle of wine.
Well, I'm a little annoyed about it, simply for the fact that while you were in Bordeaux, you made my 2022 order a lot more expensive than my Bordeaux futures typically is.
I think you said I quadrupled it.
You did quadruple it. So I typically, for Bordeaux futures, just buy some Chateau La Confession. I have a personal connection to it. John Howard, owner of Megalomaniac, is a co-owner in there. I visited the winery. It's one of the things that made me fall in love with it. This was the first year that Trottevier was available in futures, and I could afford it. $165 for a Premier Grand Cru Classé from Saint-Emilion. I'm completely on board with that. Then you got involved. So I bought an Haute Bailly 2. I ordered a Chateau Coutet, a Chateau Filio, and both of those are Sauternes.
Yeah.
This was after your visits to Sauternes, and these were supremely affordable bottles. I bought a Chateau Fontenille after our conversation with Dami Roland. And then, unfortunately, I actually wanted to up my order to throw a second Trottevier in there because you told me how good 2022 was. I could only get the second one, the Dame de Trottevier, so I'm excited for this.
Look, even the second wines are fantastic from 2022, and I personally didn't buy a lot of top wines. I bought a lot of I have
the second wines,
Grand Prix Lacoste, but I have the second wine, which were fantastic. Even the lower
you and I are on the same page.
It was like
we're looking for value, and I don't know, I'll be honest. I bought the Trottevier because I wanted to put a Premier Grand Cru Classé in my cellar because can't afford the left bank, so we're going to stick with the right bank.
I have some right bank. Well, what what I did learn while I was over there, Andre, and today we have we're going to be talking without wine in our glass because the LCBO sucks. And
do you want to expand on that?
It's hard to get wines in from the wineries.
Okay, so we did a great interview. Right? Or sorry, not we. You did a great interview.
This lady's got 4 wineries. None of them come into the province.
So she's unrepresented by any agent.
Yeah.
She tried to send you samples that.
Oh, I've had samples being tried. She didn't even try, but I've had other ones that have tried, and they just have not been able to get them in, no matter what.
So we said on a recent episode that we've applied for our agency license, so the Michael Andre Wine Agency is going to, we're just going to call it that, the Michael Andre Wine Agency.
It could be that, and then maybe we can probably get some Chateau Sancenet in, because I would love to, and that's who we're talking to. We're talking to Marie Lefevere.
Lefevere.
Jesus, what the hell is this? An Italian course?
Well, you're adding like an r at the end, just Lefevre.
I like adding an r at the end because.
Okay, fine, whatever.
Do you know what? Maybe she will tell us who she is, and we'll hear how she says it.
My dude, though, if we go back to earlier episodes where I made fun of your French, you've gotten so much better over the years, and I am tipping my hat to you. But still, Lefevre.
Okay, so anyway, whatever you want to say, hopefully we can talk Marie into now sending us a bottle of
once we get our agency license,
Chateau Sancenet, because I think I would blow you away. But I didn't want to wait to bring this one out. While I was in Bordeaux this time, I learned that I'm liking Merlot over Cab Sauv. I like right bank over left bank. I learned vintage variation is super real. Not that I doubted it, But I mean, when you try 2021 and 22, you see that vintage variation right in your face. I also learned that they have a shitty system for selling wine, and I learned
We've been talking about that all year. The negotiation system sounds horribly broken,
and the hardships of small producers. But
can I take a tiny asterisk in what you're saying? I know I'm breaking you up in the middle of this, but let me just tell you, if you're a wine lover, if you're a real wine lover, it's the blessing of Ontario and our climate. You know, our climate doesn't get warm enough to do left bank style Bordeaux. So if you really love your Ontario reds, if you love Trius Red, if you love Red Shale, if you love Pipe Down from Organized Crime, if you love Big Head, go right bank. And those wines are more affordable than the left bank wines for the most part. And it's the same thing with Burgundy. The Côte de Nuit wines are the big, more robust Pinot Noirs. We can't do that in Ontario. So your wallet will thank you. If you want to taste like the best wines that are in tandem or in companion with Niagara, Right Bank Bordeaux and Côte de Beaune Pinot Noir.
Except when you add the Cab Franc as your top grape variety, then it's really a hit and miss. Anyway, you wanted me to say Marie's name. Let her say her name, and let's hear how it sounds.
My name is Marie Lefevere.
And you are the proprietor of
4 chateaux in Saint-Emilion. We have Château Villemorine, Château Sansonnet, Château Moulin du Cadet, and Château Soutard-Cadet. The 4 chateaux are on the plateau of Saint-Emilion.
Did you hear that last little bit? Did you hear how she pronounced it?
she added Lefevre.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I take it back. Shut up, Michael.
So 4 chateaux, Andre. None of them see the light of the day in Ontario. Honestly, my favorite, and I've said it like 3 times already, is Chateau Sansonnet. If I could have brought back a bottle, I would have. I couldn't. But I'm hoping at some point we can experience this wine together, because it's a beauty, and if I can get the 2022, it'll be even better.
I hope we get our hands on it. You haven't steered me wrong so far on this magic adventure we've had this year.
So we have a producer who owns, as I said, 4 chateaux, and we have a discussion. And I know it's kind of been ad nauseum about the younger generation does not drink as much wine. And we asked Marie how Bordeaux, and specifically Saint-Emilion, are trying to reach younger consumers.
I think we have to inform a young consumer I say in French, sorry, but transmettre une culture aux jeunes consommateurs, transmitting a culture of wine, and they have to inform to the wine how we make wine and the terroir, the soil. There is lots of things to learn about wine, and I think it's very important to transmit.
How do you plan to reach out to young consumers?
I don't know exactly how to make it, but I'm sure we have to use the new way to inform, like social media and things like that. It's very important for us to adapt to the new communication and to interest new people, young people to wine.
So, Andre, as you can hear, first of all, they have to pivot.
Yeah.
But then the answer is to inform the consumer. The second answer is social media. I don't think Bordeaux has any idea how to market wines, and it's because they've been stuck behind this négociant system for so long.
The négociant system is just the tip of the iceberg, but the thing is, listening to these people speak, I don't know if they can see the tree among the forest. Like the reality is, for as much as, mainstream media likes to make fun of the French for being the French. The reality is everybody loves France. It's why you can buy a baguette in virtually every Western country in the world. Like, Michael, if you and I set foot in even a no-frills, we can buy a baguette.
Hey, did you see that John Oliver? I'm just kidding. We did that in a previous podcast.
No, but what yes, the baguette is a sexy piece of bread. But what I'm just saying is, like, I know that when we're talking about tourism, it takes a special type of tourism. It takes someone who's curious about wine to get in their car and drive to Saint-Emilion. But the reality is the strength of Bordeaux isn't in the wines. It's selling the culture. I've been to Saint-Emilion. It's a beautiful little village. It's a beautiful city. You know, you need to start investing in the experience, the tourism experience. You want to reach these drinkers? Yeah, the pool is getting smaller because people aren't just buying expensive bottles of wine sight unseen. But if you can sell them on the experience, bring them to you, they'll be hooked to life. Social media is not going to do that. And I was actually thinking about that today, September 24th, the day that we're recording this. I love influencer marketing. I love honest influencer marketing, people who have built their audiences and have something of value. I'll give a shout out to Natalie Preddy. She's a travel blogger. She has a beautiful family, and she blogs about traveling with her family, great destinations, travel tips, and she's cultivated her audience over years to do really honest, content-driven journalism versus, you know, where we are in the wine world, where it seems to be the people who have the most money or can pay for an influencer are the ones who rise to the top. I think we need to start finding a way for smaller wineries to start diverting some of their funds into that type of marketing, but convincing people to come to them.
I can't agree more. I learned more from being in Bordeaux than I have ever learned in 20 years of writing about wine. It was an eye-opening experience. As I said, I understand vintage variation up the yin-yang. Look, I've been in Ontario, been writing about Ontario, but when you get three vintages, 20, 21, 22, that are so diametrically opposite from each other. 20 was kind of an average vintage. 21, I don't care what anybody says. It was a disaster in Bordeaux. 22, a complete opposite. It was fantastic. I couldn't not like a wine from 2022.
Well, let me take us out of the forest, because you just described a perfect tree in the forest and a very important tree in the forest. But let's talk about the forest, and the forest is France. I first went to France when I was 17 in the year 2001. I had a good time, but my impression of Paris was the same as the second time I went to France, which was in 2005. Paris is fine. Paris is a beautiful city. French people in Paris, Parisians, are kind of rude. That's just how they are. It's kind of like Torontonians. If you're Canadian outside of Toronto, Torontonians are kind of rude. But if you really want to experience French culture, get out of Paris. And you really want to experience French culture, French food, French wine, beautiful castles, beautiful chateaux, beautiful properties, go to a wine region. Go to Bordeaux, go to Burgundy, go to Beaujolais.
I'm telling you, it was totally eye-opening for me. And sadly, I don't think they know how to do this, because when I was in Bordeaux and I had asked a few of them, I said, so, you know, this idea of coming to a winery, it's a decade old. That's it. The oldest tasting rooms there are 10 years old, bringing people in to taste. They are not used to this. They are used to selling their wines right away. You know,
you need to start selling at the chateau. You know, I don't think I ever want to see the cavernous tasting room when I visit a winery in Bordeaux, but it would be nice, you know, next time I visit Guy Meslin at Chateau La Rose with a Z, who I've shouted out on this podcast a few times. The last time I went there, I would have left with a half case of his wines, because in 2013, that was one of the few wineries I could have afforded the wines. Didn't have a single bottle for sale.
When I was at Grand Prix Lacoste, they took 20 minutes to find me 2 bottles of their second wine. I was like, why don't you have this on the property? It's all been sold.
But
It's
here's
all
the
out
thing:
of
is
there.
like, even if it's 10% of your sales, you build the experience, and it's about hooking a client. It's about making people clients for life. Because you know what? If you go to Chateau La Rose and I can buy a half case of wine, I'm not going to France every year. I'm certainly not going to Chateau La Rose every year. But if I buy a half case, I enjoy those over a few years. Guess what I'm doing every time I see that label on the shelf?
You're going to pick it up.
You're picking it up.
So we continue to push a little here with Marie. Does winemaking have to change to appeal to the consumer, both young and old? Do people still want wines that need a decade to age, or should they be making wines that are ready now?
I think it's very important to keep your identity. You don't have to follow fashion or things like that. It's very important for us to be very fidèle to our terroir and our culture. I think it's more important to inform people why our wine are so structured. For example, in Saint-Emilion, why our wine are like that, but no change our wine to be pleasant to that kind of customer.
Like, I mean, they're not changing. Like, that's not what Bordeaux wants to do. They don't want to change to be for the sake of changing.
Well,
and I kind of get it.
Well, let's go back to our Carnachale interview where Carla L, the daughter, the third generation of the property, talked about what's going to happen when she inherits the winery, and she used the word evolution instead of revolution. If you're a winery in Bordeaux and you're still making Parker wines, so heavy extracted, heavily wooded, you're probably going to continue to have customers for that. But the pool's going to continue to get smaller because the bigger pool are moving to more elegant, to lighter wines. And, when I talked to Pascal Marchand, who's working with Grand Cru Burgundy grapes, of Marchand Taz fame in Burgundy, he doesn't do punch downs anymore. He's sort of just leaving the cap submerged, letting the tannins be extracted to make the wines approachable. And there is a way to make the wines more approachable while still making them cellarable. But man, I'm 42. I don't want to have to buy a bottle of Grand Cru Classé Saint-Emilion that I can't drink until I'm 60.
The same thing is going, the revolution and the evolution, I think it's both. I think it's happening. There's a revolution happening and there's evolution happening. I think the revolution is away from Parker.
Yeah.
I think the evolution of that is that we are, and I'm seeing it in Italy because I go often, is that you're seeing the death of the small barrel, the death of new wood. You are seeing large oak barrels. You're seeing, more air contact. You're seeing more oxygen in the wines. You're seeing wines that are drinking sooner, drinking fresher, drinking lighter. Even if they're a heavy wine, when we did the Bertani interview, think back to that. Think back to the single vineyard Valpolicella that we had that tasted like a Pinot.
Yeah.
Like that was a light wine. That was a wine that
but still full of flavor. Still full of flavor.
Full of flavor. The glass was full. I could see your face through the glass, which is not exactly what I want to see in my wine.
I completely agree with you.
But that was a light, juicy wine, and I said Pinot. You said more like a Gamay. But we were on kind of the same track, that it was a light, easy drinking wine.
But it's the whole idea, too, that wine styles have been evolving, and the cycles aren't happening where you flip a light switch on and off, but Bordeaux never used to be on the regular 15% alcohol. Like, I take a look at the Iron Gate auctions that are taking place in a while, and when you get stuff that's for sale from pre-Parker, it's not unusual to see 12.5%, 13% in Bordeaux. And yeah, okay, we've messed up the planet and there's climate change that we have to deal with. But, there are ways to mitigate that with vineyard management, with canopy management, with crop yields to make sure you're getting ripe fruit with lower crop yields that aren't necessarily pushing into 14-15%. And I think there's a way to do that, like she said, fidèle, to be true to the spirit of the winemaking. You can do that while honestly telling Robert Parker to go F himself for what he's done to the wine industry.
Absolutely. Now we have talked about two aspects of Bordeaux over the year. Bordeaux itself, how it's trying to pivot, how it's trying to find its way, and pricing. Now, pricing has always been something that you and I have butted a little bit ahead about. You're okay spending a little bit more money. I do not like spending a lot of money on a wine. We're going to start with the first, and we're going to move to the second.
I think it's different for each appellation, each estate. There is a different way to follow. I think we have a big chance here. It's our soil, our culture, and a big history of our estate we have to keep and to transmit. And I admire the appellation like Bordeaux. They reinvent lots of things like bubbles or rosé, and they make lots of things to reinvent their way to produce wine, and it's super for us. So I think we have different way to adapt our production to new consumer.
So you could tell she was thinking on her feet here.
Yeah.
She was kind of a little bit all over the place. She was talking about, bubbles and white and rosé wines and how to change things around. Because Bordeaux is also right now looking down the barrel of white wines being more popular than red wines. And when you're a red wine area and then you're not willing to change, you're going to get mowed down in this scenario. And I know that when I was there were producers saying, we're going to make white wine whether the appellation allows us to or not. So they better change, or we're just going to start making some white wine.
I 70% disagree with what you just said. I 30% agree with it. One of my favorite quotes from Wayne's World is, Zeppelin didn't write tunes that everyone liked. They left that to the Bee Gees.
I mean, Led Zeppelin didn't write tunes that everyone liked. They left that to the Bee Gees. Car!
And I think one of the big problems in Bordeaux right now is they've been in bed with the Chinese for so long, and they've been in bed with the Americans for so long, and now that both of them have broken up with them, they don't know who they are, and they're going through an identity crisis. Bordeaux's a red wine region. Yeah, people are drinking more whites than red, but is the market share of red wine zero?
It's not. But what I'm saying is there is this huge area called Entre deux Mers, which is mostly white wine.
Okay,
why not tap into that?
So there's my 30%. There's my, because I said 70%. There's my 30%. Is I do think that white Bordeaux is an undiscovered country, and I do think there is huge potential for it. For someone who on this podcast who now for almost a decade has been shitting on New Zealand style Sauvignon Blanc of like pumping up these underripe aromas and flavors, I love a good affordable white Bordeaux, and not very much of it comes through the LCBO.
I love this is you and I butt heads on this one as well. I love a really vibrant acid-driven New Zealand Sauv Blanc. Like, I think those things are just great.
But you and I are in agreement that like it's appropriate to the region, and there is an undiscovered country that is waiting to be tapped with regard to that as the world's taste shift. But if you're running a high end Bordeaux winery, play your greatest hits. Give me Stairway to Heaven. Give me a Whole Lot of Love, and do it better. Do it better than you ever have, and bring the price down. The Chinese money's gone. The American money is gone. Make the wines affordable. I know what it costs to make a bottle of wine. I own a winery now. I own my virtual winery, just to be clear. I haven't bought a vineyard. But like owning a virtual winery, I know what it costs to make a bottle of wine. And when you're charging $1,000 for a bottle of wine, it doesn't cost that much to make it.
So this is interesting. So earlier this year, you titled the podcast "How to Get Me to Open My Wallet" or whatever
you
it was.
found the winery that opened your wallet and heart.
And if I'm honest, it wasn't it wasn't just the winery; it was the wine itself. I tasted it. It was a Clos de Sarp. I paid €50 a bottle. Even the 21 was delicious. The 20, to tell you the truth, the 21 was cheaper than the 22. Mm-hmm. They priced them accordingly, and I was willing to pay for both wines. I think one was 50, one was 57.
Oh, just a quick little asterisk. I'm not going to hijack this too much because you're in the middle of a point. But if you are an Ontario red lover, the off vintages in Bordeaux are usually a good buy. But just keep in mind, they're going to taste more like Niagara than they are like Bordeaux.
I would say that is true, but what it is about pricing in Bordeaux, can you get can they be? I guess what was explained to me is that when I was in Bordeaux, if you think about some of the wines that they were selling, they probably have the best value between $30 and $50.
Yeah.
If you look at it, because they make a lot of wine. And they make a lot of wine in the lower price points. And so, here's what Marie had to say.
What do you think about the pricing of Bordeaux wines? Many consumers see Bordeaux as very expensive. What would you answer to that, to them?
They have to come to Bordeaux and try wine in Bordeaux. We have lots of very, very good wine, very high quality of wine with a very good price. Sure, and some consumers think that Bordeaux it's only a very famous label, very high price. No, there's lots of wine in Bordeaux with a good price. Mine, for example.
She says, come to Bordeaux, which is exactly what we said at the beginning.
Yes.
Come to Bordeaux.
Yes.
Find out what they have.
Yes.
Learn that they have wines between $30 and $50 that you've never tasted before, that you may fall in love with, that, but that was not always an option for people because where were you tasting? They had no tasting rooms.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing tasting rooms, but that's not at all wineries.
All right, so there's two things that have to change in Bordeaux. We've already talked about one of them, and that is being able to buy at the chateau.
Yes, you have to be able to. I don't understand why you're letting me taste at a place, and then when I say, great, I want to buy 2 bottles, they look at me and go, you can't. Go to a shop.
Yeah.
And then you say, but your 2022s aren't out yet. And they go, no, they're not. And you're like, well, then why did you let me taste it?
Yeah, they got to tear that system down to the studs. The second thing that they absolutely have to change is and here's the thing is, you and I understand it. I don't mind paying more for a good vintage and a bad vintage because I understand it. But if you want to reach a larger consumer base, especially while the consumer base is shrinking, as everyone we've talked to has said, you have to get rid of vintage pricing. I'm sorry, you're going to have to average it out. So I'm sorry, if in a bad vintage or a tough vintage, the best you think you can get is 45 or 50 euros, you're a €50 winery, €50 a bottle winery now going forward. And it's going to be when people buy your good vintages, they'll be like, okay, I got a bargain. And in the tough vintages, you know what? It's about building customers for life. It's not about building customers per vintage. Because if you keep doing this by the vintage pricing, you're going to have a tough time selling your challenging vintages. Where if you make everyone feel like they're getting a bargain in every vintage, you'll get customers for life.
I push back a little bit because I remember when Coyote's Run was around.
Okay.
They did vintage pricing. Jeff Aubrey was all about that. No, he didn't gouge. It was $10 more, usually in the good vintages, and it was less in the challenging vintages. I think people will pay a little bit more, but you can't go, all my chips in and say, okay, so if I was $40 last year, this is a much better vintage. It's now $80. That does not work. But if you go, look, it was a much better
Okay,
vintage.
so let's go to this.
It's $50.
Let's go to
That's
the
fine.
70% disagree, 30% agree. Is it just like, okay, if we're talking about a 5 to 10% fluctuation, okay, fine. You know what? I'll give you a 5 to 10% fluctuation, but I've seen some years when I'm buying my Bordeaux futures that it's a 33% difference.
See, that's wrong.
That it's like I've bought Chateau La Confession for $45 in a challenging vintage and $65 in a good vintage. That's a 33% difference.
Look, I'm going to bring this home a little closer right
Let's
now.
do it.
So here we are in Ontario, where we have taken California off the shelf. Like,
Yep.
it is gone. You cannot buy California.
Yep.
When you walk into the LCBO, you've got to find another thing to offset your love of California, be it Chile, be it Argentina. Maybe you're going to try to go to Bordeaux this time. Maybe you're going to try a Sicilian red. There's always somebody there who's willing to take your money and take your place. And I think that is also something Bordeaux needs to learn. Bordeaux is Bordeaux. They'll always be Bordeaux. Krister is going to always
try
love
to be
Bordeaux.
the Bee Gees. Don't try to be the Bee Gees.
Correct. Let's realize that I can get a great bottle of blend, or I can get a great cab over in Chile, and I'm more than happy to walk over to the Chilean wine section and pay $20 versus looking at a Bordeaux at $50. I need to see something.
I don't mind spending the $50 in Bordeaux, but make it good and make me not feel ripped off, but also don't make it complicated.
You know, I there's always somebody who's willing to take your place. And you know where you learn that? You learn that when every single wine region does a tasting against your wine region. Everybody wants to take your place. Everybody wants to take the king's chair. The Caesar is never safe.
It's why every region in the world tries to do their own judgment of Paris.
Correct. A2 Brute. Brute is always there. He's always willing to put a knife in your back.
All right,
So-
I think there's more to this interview.
There is more to this interview. Krister and I sat with Marie for about 10, 12 minutes, and there was a very funny moment with her husband, like an absolutely very French moment that you've got to hear. But if you want to hear it, you've got to be a member. You've got to go to Patreon.
Dude,
You've
you got to give us
your
$5 a month. Like, it's $5 a month.
You got to put your $5 down, and you got to go listen to it. And if you want to hear it, that's where it is. $5 a month. Patreon.com/2 Guys Talking Wine, and you can get the full interviews. And I swear to God, I think the moment was worth $20, but I'm only saying $5. We'll have you do it. And so we're not asking a lot, but we are asking for your support.
Well, it sounds like we're desperate. We're not desperate, but it's just like I said. We know we have a dedicated audience. We know you've been listening to us for a long time.
And we know we're putting out some great interviews and content. And
It's
if you want to
getting
hear
better.
them,
We know we know we're getting better. This isn't one of those things where
we no
we
longer
think
have a swear jar, for God's sakes. And Andre must have thrown the F-bomb out 3 times this.
I did not a single F-bomb. I've dropped the S word a couple times.
Oh,
but
did
came
you?
very close to
Oh,
the F
all right.
word.
I missed that one.
Bordeaux gets my blood up. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I appreciate what we've done with Bordeaux because I love the region. It's one of my first loves in the world. But like, it's just one of those things where like Bordeaux is a mean girl.
And if anybody's listening from Beaujolais, God, would we love to go there and bring this podcast.
Oh,
to
the girl
Beaujolais.
next door.
The girl next door. So I want to thank Krister, who obviously was on this podcast with us, asked some really great questions. Marie, you were fantastic. I know that maybe we shit on you a little bit and took the piss out of some of your answers. But trust me, we are on your side. And when we get our license, I want to bring some of your wines in and taste them right here on the podcast. Maybe we'll have a few of our friends on, and we can all wax poetic. Maybe get a little Matt Cause going on and see if he likes it, because we know he likes the higher end stuff. We can't get him in with hey, we got a yellowtail that you might like. And I'd like to thank, Who else?
Just thank me and sign off.
You know what? I'd like to thank any agent who's listening who may want to bring in some really good Bordeaux wine. He's Andre Prue of AndreWineReview.com. I'm
He's
Michael
Michael Pincus of the Grape Guy of MichaelPincusWineReview.com as well.
Close. Michael Pincus of MichaelPincusWineReview.com.
I got that in there. Listen to the
media.
tape. Okay, it's just because this is our second podcast of the day and we've been drinking on an empty stomach.
Oh, good night.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Adam Duran and Ken Little. Good night.